welcome back to my Let's Play. We're gonna get our text team set up right away. I tested out a strategy, or the strategy I was gonna use. Let's just say it ended up in a massive stalemate and the ACW didn't end until 1943. So that's similar to like 6-7 years of fighting. Of course, I suck at. Okay, I am Mercs11 and I'm back. This is the tech team setup and we're continuing. I've decided after trying one strategy I'm going to try something different and see how well this turns out. So we're going to set it very fast for the time being. And a whole number, that scenario that I tried before while I was testing my strategy, this is kind of what I ended up getting bogged down. Basically I had the front in New England and a front around this line, and then Mexico joined in fighting me. So it just did not go well. And George H. Stern died. Great heat wave has ended. At least it's over. Japan declined a diplomatic deal, or maybe concluded. I didn't really read it. Japan went democratic. Russia's still fighting the Soviet Union, or Soviet Russia. A day in September. Social and political consensus in American society is broken down, and the current presidential election campaign is like nothing we have ever seen. The America First Union Party is organizing right-wing militias in the South and Midwest, and the Communists control the streets of Chicago and Detroit. Senior military commanders believe it may be necessary to cancel the elections and suspend the Constitution if we are to avoid a complete social breakdown. Well, I flipped a coin to decide this before it landed on elections go ahead. This time it landed on invite the military to step in to save the country. So, or basically it landed on tails, which was what military step in to defend the country was. Canada supports us. The British King Edward VIII has said yesterday by his loyal contacts in Washington that he fully understands the special situation and needs special measures as throwing away the Constitution. That being said, the Canadian military won't help the Americans in fighting the enemies of the regime, but they can try to arrest all enemies of the American regime. But we can't. I don't know if I read that wrong. But great, authoritarian democratic, and Douglas MacArthur's leading the country. So I guess MacArthur got what he wanted in the end. Order up 3 new infantry units and some more militias. 8 militias and 2 Marines. It's kind of early to get the Marines. And I know we're not going to have any of these troops done by the time they would need to be required. The Emergency Security Act. MacArthur's first act was to re-establish order on the streets of America. He proposed the Emergency Security Act, which would give MacArthur the power to arrest and detain suspected members of un-American organizations. This was a thin cover for MacArthur's anti-socialist agenda, and with the support of America's First, it was more than likely going to be enacted. This country is still a democracy. Springfield, deploy. So, our militias have been deployed. Constitutional ban. MacArthur was prepared for extreme action in dealing with both the America's first party in the combined syndicates. He attacked both parties and as being prepared to use the election to destroy the American Constitution and thus prepared to pass an act to ban both parties from participating in the elections. This act would remove both political parties from being legitimate entities, and any action they progressed with would be seen as an act of treason. Let's pass the act. So we're a paternal autocrat. So we just banned the U.S. Constitution. How is this going to affect us? The days of violence. The days leading up to the election were marred by violence by both America's First and the CSA protests their ban from the election. The anarchist groups attacked the government buildings, and America's First supporters denounced the elections as nothing more than a joke. While Reed and the CSA threatened a general strike if the election did not include them, the America First rallied around Long, who used his position in the Senate to demand his I can't pronounce it, but in the let's say the ban stands. So basically, we've got more or less elections that are excluding both parties. Reed declares the workers' state in the rise of the CSA. The combined syndicates of America have seized major cities and declared their independence from the United States of America. Disastrous beginning. Long declares the United States a dead nation in the rise of the U.S. The American Union state has declared independence from the United States. This is the end of the country. California leaves the Union. The chaos and anarchy on the East Coast is too much for the people of California. The governor has declared a state of emergency, has formally declared the independence of the California Republic. Montana National Guard. The Montana National Guard have been called upon to defend the country from the rebels in California. The Texas military. The Texas National Guard have been called upon to defend the country from the rebels concentrated in the American Union state. The Second American Civil War. With the declaration of war has plunged the country into war. The Second American Civil War has begun, and there will be no retreat, no surrender, nor quarter. Canada seizes New England. Canada has taken control of New England in response to the expansion of the CSA. Canadian troops have marched through New England and seized Boston. It seems as if they have planned for this eventuality. With our forces busy, there is no way to stop them. Better than that. So California has left. This just is not good. Part of the Navy defects. When the American Union state defected from the United States, part of the Navy went with them. Our fleet mutinies. USA volunteers arrived. The USA quickly found enough eager troops to beat up on the syndicalist menace concentrated in the CSA. So we've got troops to deploy. So we deployed our troops. Nationalist French volunteers. Nationalist French pilots and planes have arrived to support us in our effort. Excellent. Canada seizes the Panama Canal. With America in turmoil, Canada has seized the Panama Canal to ensure it stays open for travel. Canada has promised to keep the canal open to all traffic and respect America's claim to it. So we get the first Bayou Division, which are Frenchmen. Japan seizes Guam. With American turmoil, Japan has moved onto the island of Guam. There's very little the U.S. government can do to stop Japan at this point. Too bad. Part of our Navy defense. CSA's influence expands. North Carolina and Florida, Arkansas join the American Union state. The territory of Hawaii is revolted. Okay. Canada has sent us volunteers and equipment. Okay. Well, this is the opening stages. I think I'm going to cut it here. Well, tell me what you think the opening plan should be. And, of course, things aren't decided yet. The BSA could go to war, and so could Mexico against us. So we'll have to see what happens. This is Mercs11, signing off.